Hey. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we're all crazy, going busy. I don't know about you, but I have seen a trend with clients here lately, and it's been around credit card debt. How about you?
Yes, I have been seeing credit card debt coming through a lot recently for sure.
So, one of the first things that people are noticing is their interest rates have slowly gone up on existing credit cards. And it's like, what is going on? It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, the credit card companies at any time can change your interest rate.
Yeah, and people don't realize that interest rates are connected with like the Fed rates and all of this other stuff. So, when we had such high inflation and the Fed was raising rates and like trying to combat inflation, that's why our high yield savings account, interest is so high, but that's also why credit card interest and stuff go up as well. So,
Yeah, so what's happening is this is stuff we learned back in school, so we're going to have to dust off the cobwebs a little bit. So, as inflation rises, they want us to stop borrowing money because that causes issues. So, it's in order to stabilize the economy and they want us to save more. That's why there's higher interest, there's more of a benefit for us to put into savings. It's a way to balance out the economy. That's how I
yes.
understand it.
Yes, yeah, you're exactly
Layman's
right.
terms.
Yeah, as easy as we can get it because it can get a lot more complicated and the
There's a
verbiage
lot more to
that
it, guys. This
Mhm.
is this is just dumbed down so this accountant can understand it because I'm not a finance person.
Right, yeah.
So of course, as I'm getting these questions, of course, I get out on the Google, and sure enough, from January of 2023 until now, our interest rates have gone up 4.5%. So at one point, we were paying around 16% was a good interest rate on credit cards, which oh my God, still seems high to me, but that's what it is. Now we're paying over 20. I've seen up to 28, 27, depending on your credit rating. So I went out. Discover has one of the best credit card calculators I have found. It's
Mhm.
free. I will put it in the notes of this show. But I looked up, and I'm going to throw out a bunch of numbers, but I looked up as of third quarter of 2023, the average credit card debt is 6,000. I think that's low, but I'm going to go with what the Google said because I'm
Mhm.
seeing a lot higher numbers.
Yes.
So if I paid off a $6,000 balance at the 16% rate that we were paying with the minimum payment of like 120 was the lowest payment Discover would let me put out there.
Mhm.
83 months, which that is like 7 years, and you're looking at about $4,000 of interest. Okay, let that sink in for a minute. 7 years, $120 a month. I'm not charging anything else.
Mhm.
Almost 4,000 in interest.
So, basically 7 years to pay off what will end up being about a $10,000
Yeah.
debt.
Yeah. So let me bump that up to 20.74, which again, that's the average
Mhm.
at $120 monthly payment. Now we're looking at 113 months. That's 9.5 years. With interest, $7,500. Not charging anything else.
Yikes. Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So I think step one is everybody needs to go out and look at this calculator just to put some of this in perspective.
Mhm.
I think that would be step one.
Yes.
You know, are
Yeah.
you
I think
okay with
that's important.
we have a little bit of a delay. Imagine that. Usually by the end of the day, we're both lagging. Okay, let's see if that's going to be a little better.
So yeah, I agree with you that people need to use that calculator and input their own debt and figure out how long it will take them to pay that off. And you start with the minimum payment. So, if you're just paying what the company tells you to pay, how long, but then also start incorporating little pieces. If you can put an extra $50 towards that, how much does that shorten that time frame? An extra $100, whatever that is, because that's what I know I'm teaching my clients to do, utilizing the snowball or the avalanche method, putting extra towards one and trying to really pay that off and then move to the next one and the next one, as opposed to just paying minimums across all the various credit cards and then, hoping and praying that you'll eventually get to the end.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but the other trend that I've really started noticing is people aren't so concerned about the total dollar amount of debt that they have. It's more of just making the minimums. And I have seen minimum payments gobble up an entire paycheck,
Mm,
and we're still living on credit just to put food on the table, with just
yep.
getting by. I don't know if you've noticed a big chunk. It's because, you've got 5 to 10 credit cards that you're
Right.
paying for, or 5 or 10
Yes.
credit cards and a loan. And it's just payments going out.
Yes, I have come across a few clients that have much more credit card debt than the average, and their minimum payments are usually what would be equivalent to like a mortgage payment or, a biweekly paycheck. And so, um, those are the type of people that can't really snowball or avalanche their way out of debt. They have to take a little bit more extreme measures to either lower the amount of debt that they owe or try to get it under a lower interest rate to give them some breathing room or something. Because um, something where you've got, like you said, 6 to 10 credit cards, most at high interest, maybe one's a 0%, but then you've got, a large amount of balances across them. Very hard to navigate just on your own.
Yeah. But if you want to attempt it, um, the first thing I would try to do is see if you had the option to do a balance transfer where you got 18 months or so of 0% interest. Then go back out to that calculator and see how much of that can you pay down, and then what's gonna be left, because it's gonna be
Mhm.
at a high interest rate. I've seen it all the way up to 28, 29%, which
Yeah.
is it's crazy. But
Mhm.
if you can consolidate that all into one 0% and pay it off in 18 months, great option. Great option.
I will have to note that people do need to qualify for that. So
Oh
they
god, yes.
generally need to have good to great credit in
Mhm.
order to qualify for a balance transfer loan or credit card or something along those lines. So sometimes that is a good option for people if they're in that boat. But for people who don't have great credit, that usually is not an option.
You're right. I mean, this is when you first notice, "Oh, shit.
Hmm.
I've gotten myself in a pickle," and you catch
Yeah.
it quick. I mean,
Yeah,
you gotta catch it quick.
for
No
sure.
late payments, no none of that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So then what would your next step be? If you couldn't get the balance transfer, what would you recommend?
So, the next thing that I would recommend is there are some resources out there that can help with what I call debt settlement.
Mm.
So for my clients that have quite high credit card, I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. Some of their best options are to get their debt settled. And so, usually, what that involves is working with a debt settlement agent or professional who contacts the credit card companies and basically makes a deal with them and says, I know client so and so owes you 15,000 on this credit card. can we knock that down to 7,000
Mhm.
or even 10,000? And they do that with usually these are people with multiple credit cards with different, carriers and companies. And so they will contact every company and see if they can come to an agreement about how much you will owe them overall. I
Mhm.
have seen some instances where people can get the debt they owe cut in half
Mhm.
or at least by 30, 40%, which then makes it a little bit
Mhm.
easier for you to be able to pay that off over a specific amount of time.
Yes, and I did that with my mother's estate.
Mm-hmm.
Now we went through the bankruptcy court, but it was very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I do want to tell people is the credit card companies, if debt is forgiven, they can send you a form of like a W-9. I don't remember the form name. I can look it up before we post this. But it is a debt forgiveness, which is technically income to you. So it is a possibility that you will have to pay income tax on anything, or you will have to report it as revenue on your
Mm-hmm.
income tax, and depending on where you end up on your filing, may have to pay
Mm-hmm.
income tax on. But they
Yeah.
did, the credit card company did send the estate a lovely tax form, and I had to report it.
Yeah.
And luckily I had enough losses not to have to pay anything. But yeah, that is and it's a way to see a light without filing
Mm-hmm.
bankruptcy. And that's the whole point of it. These companies go out and say, they're either going to file bankruptcy and you're going to get nothing. Can we work
Mm-hmm.
on settling, coming to an agreement? Do you
Yeah.
know what that does to their credit rating when they go through that?
I think it depends on how the company does that.
Yeah.
I know that there are some debt settlement organizations
Hmm.
that basically have you stop paying the
Hmm.
debt so that they can start talking to, because if you're still paying the payments on time and the minimums, the credit card company isn't going to
Yeah.
want to settle. They're like, this person can afford this debt. So some of them will basically make it to where you have to stop paying the credit card bills altogether, which then shows late
Slow
payments,
pay. Yeah.
defaults, things of that nature in order to negotiate with these companies and get that debt settled. So there is a chance that it could hurt your credit even more initially to get that done.
Hmm.
However, I do always like to preface doing something like this is still better overall than filing for bankruptcy in terms of your future ability to get loans and credit and all of that kind of stuff again.
Yeah. So the other option that I offer up to my clients is to take out a consolidation loan where we can get, 6 to 10 payments down into one larger payment, but still lower than
Mhm.
probably the 6 to 10 or 15, whatever the number of payments going out. But again, you have to qualify, you've got to have a good credit standing. I mean, but there are so many different ways that it all depends on your unique situation.
And that can look like a personal loan through a bank.
Hmm.
It can also look like, with the advent of technology, there are now more and more websites that do peer lending. Have you
Hmm.
heard of peer lending?
I haven't.
So they basically allow other people to front you the money, and then they're getting their money back with interest when you
Interesting.
pay back that
So
loan.
another
So
investment for
yeah.
people that, yeah. Hmm.
So for the investor, it can be an investment opportunity that does allow you to help people with so for instance, I've seen a website called Prosper, one of the many peer lending websites, and you can do debt consolidation. You can get loans to do like refurbishments or something like they bought a house and they're trying to update the house,
Hmm.
or some other kind of things like that. And so they set the time frame, they set the interest rate depending on their credit. It gets rated if someone has really great credit and they are very confident they're going to pay this, it's going to be an A-rated debt and you're going to get your money back and then some. And then they've got ones at the bottom where it might default or it might do whatever. But that is an option. Those sometimes don't have the greatest percentages, but like I've seen them at like 17% or 15%. But if all of your credit card debt's at 29%, that's still a better percentage, unfortunately. Right. So it is an option.
Yeah. No, and so one of the options that I'm able to give my clients is, so being a small business, sometimes people have to pay out our services. So we found a company that has like 42 banks, and they compete to be able to loan money to our clients. And I've approached them about doing debt consolidation. So that's another option. So you have, instead of going to your personal bank, you've got all of these banks competing for it's kind of like when we bought our first home, we used Rocket Mortgage, I think it was back in the day. And it was nice because we'd have 3-5 offers and we got to pick the one that was best for our needs, depending on what we wanted. And so, so I guess the point is there are options. And the absolute final option is there is bankruptcy, people, and it's there for a reason. And I know that's a scary word, but there have been several people before you that have filed it, and it's there for this reason, because sometimes we just need that kind of help.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely what we consider last resort.
Absolutely.
If you have no other options, if you absolutely can't do any of the options we just mentioned, then bankruptcy is there for you. It is there to protect you. It is there to wipe the slate clean, so to speak. But it does have, as I mentioned, downstream effects on your ability to qualify for any kind of loans coming up, establish any kind of credit for a good while. So it should not be, considered lightly. Like definitely,
but it also shouldn't.
Never be considered.
Yeah. But it happens.
Yes.
We make bad decisions sometimes, and we need a helping hand, and it is the absolute last resort. And there's a lot of mental stuff that goes along with just that word. And it's like, yeah, it shouldn't be taken lightly, but it is available. So
yeah, people can feel shameful or feel, very guilty or whatever else for having to do something like that. And they don't want people to know that they're going through that situation or whatever else. But, it is a resource that is available to you. So many people have had to do it before. So many people you probably know have had to do it before, and you just they may not have ever told you that they did it. So
there's famous people that have done it. So
wow, yeah, all the time.
Yeah, one other thing that I'd like to touch on before we leave, if you don't mind, is I've actually had to sit down and prioritize what gets paid.
Right.
While we're exploring some of these options. And my advice, and let's see if yours is the same, is basic needs come first. You pay for your food, food. You've got to feed everybody and keep everybody hydrated.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean filet mignons. That means we're going to have to tighten it up a little bit and really try to bring in food as inexpensively as possible, which I went to the grocery store today and bought lunch meat for $10 a pound. I was like, oh, so we're all feeling it.
Yes.
The second thing on my priority list would be my vehicle, because I can live in my vehicle, which is a horrible thing to say, but I can also get to and from work in my vehicle.
Yeah.
So, and then my home would be third. And I know that is awful to say, but along with home comes your utilities. You've got electric, you've got water. But if I can feed and hydrate my family and have my car, those would be my top two. but your home shelter is also as important. So you might have a different order.
Yeah, I definitely do like to make sure that my clients know that there are the kind of extraneous spending that can be gotten rid of, the
Mm,
streaming services, the eating out, the things that don't necessarily have to be done,
mhm,
that they should think about getting rid of first before they start getting super restrictive.
mhm,
But you're absolutely right. They do need to prioritize what are the basic needs that are important to sustain you, to shelter you, to give you the ability to go places. I mean, I know some people that got rid of their car because they did the math, and between car payments, car insurance, all of that stuff, it was costing them almost $1,000 a month to
mhm.
have a vehicle that could be going towards paying down debt.
Yeah.
So they sold their vehicle and they opted in on biking, on using buses, Ubering sometimes, and it still came out to be a lot less expensive than operating a car. So
Mhm.
there are some kind of like cost comparisons that you can do to see if you have to go start getting
Really
into
extreme.
extreme
Yeah.
measures of what you need to be spending and what you need to be putting towards debt. That's something that to think about.
Yeah. And like I said, this is extreme while you're doing other options because
Mhm.
living out in the country, we don't have Uber, we don't
Right.
bicycle. Oh my God, it would take me a day to bike somewhere. I Anyway, so of course we're thinking in different you're more rural than I am, and so I mean you're more city than I am, other way around.
Yeah.
So it's funny how we automatically, but out here it's like you move in with family or you move in with a friend or stuff like that. So I know things are
Mhm.
tight for everyone. We're all feeling it, even those of us that aren't drowning in debt, and we're here to help. I mean, we are absolutely here to help anyone. If you just want to talk and see if there's something, either one of us would be happy just to sit down and look at things. I went over things with Amanda just to get a second eye on my stuff, and it was she gave me some great tips, and so I mean it's worth somebody looking over your stuff.
Yes, and even if there's things that say maybe Jen or I can't do, we have resources
Mm,
available for people that are. So, as I mentioned, these clients that I have with various ranges of credit card debt, I'm helping some of them go through how to pay that off themselves. Ones that have a little bit higher debt, I'm providing them with resources for balance transfers, debt consolidations, things of that nature, so they know what their options are. They can speak to a professional that is focused on that particular thing, and they can find what the best way forward is to getting out of debt.
yeah. We're going to make it through this because what I did here is even though interest rates went up like an escalator, we are going to start stair stepping back down. So it's not going to be as fast, but we're on the other trend. It's an election year, guys. This is normal. We're
Mhm.
not going to see any relief until we figure out what's happening next. I mean,
Yep.
everybody's sitting questioning what's going on next. So regardless
Yep.
of which side of the fence you're on, everybody's questioning. So
Yep. So the main goal is just to stay patient, keep trying to plug away at the debt, do whatever you can to free up as much money as possible. So you can, use that calculator, figure out ways to cut that debt even more. And something that people don't think about or don't want to think about is the option to start bringing in more income via a side job, a side hustle, part-time, however you want to call it,
mhm.
because that money can go directly towards your debt. I've done it before personally. When I moved to Denver from Florida and I was in about $10,000 of credit card debt, I went and got a job at a running store for, I think, 4 days a week. And every penny of my paycheck went towards paying off my credit card debt. And as soon as that credit card hit zero, I said, all right, it's been fun. I'm out. Like, I got what I
There's
needed
always
out of this job.
options. I mean, there's always options is what you're
Yeah.
saying. I mean, and there's more opportunities now with house sitting, pet sitting, Ubering. I mean, there's options out there.
Yes.
There are options.
There's a lot of different options. So don't necessarily like close the chapter on that option unless you absolutely do not have time available to you, because time is what you need to do something like that.
Mhm.
Think about what temporarily it would look like to bring in some extra money to pay that debt down even faster, and plug that number into that calculator and see if cutting your debt down 1 year quicker or even 6 months quicker is worth, spending a little extra time at a different job.
Well, not the happiest, talk, but real. We had to get a little bit real with what we're hearing from clients, and that's
And
what this is
timely.
all about. Yeah.
Yes, it's very relevant for what I think is most of our clients. I have very few clients that don't have any kind of credit card debt. So I think it's really important for the majority of people out there to kind of know what their options are and kind of the best ways to get out of it.
Yeah. Okay, another one under our belt. So
Perfect.
let us know if anybody needs help. We're here. So the link, both of our links will be in the show, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.